Together, we can fight cervical cancer, get screened regularly, and spread awareness. Namaste.
Right now in India, a quiet battle is being fought every single day. It's a fight against a cancer that is devastating, yes, but also one that is largely preventable. This is a story about a terrible loss for sure, but it's also a story about incredible hope and innovation.
79,906. I just want you to sit with that number for a second, because it's not just a number on a screen. It's not just a statistic. It represents something much, much bigger. That's how many women in India lost their lives to cervical cancer in just 1 year. We're talking about the second most common cancer for women in the country, often striking them right in the prime of their lives.
And here's the part that is just mind-boggling. The real tragedy at the heart of all this massive loss of life, is from a cancer that we absolutely know how to prevent. Nearly 90% of these cases, they just didn't have to happen. So what in the world is going on? Okay, so to figure out how to fix this, we've got to get to the root of the problem, right? We need to understand the virus that's causing this silent crisis in the first place. So the villain in our story, if you will, is a really, really common virus. It's called the human papillomavirus, or HPV. Now, for most of us, our immune system just kicks it out, no problem. But sometimes it lingers, and when it lingers, that's when the trouble can start. That's when it can lead to cancer.
And you know what's wild? This big enemy, it's actually super specific. I mean, there are a ton of different types of HPV out there, but get this, just 2 of them, HPV 16 and 18, are the culprits behind more than 3/4 of all cervical cancer cases in India. That is huge. It means we have a crystal clear target to aim for.
So if we know the cause so precisely, how do we fight back? Well, this brings us to the incredible power of prevention. And there are really 2 main strategies we can use. This is the story we want to see. This is Priya. She's a teacher and she noticed something wasn't right. So she went in for a routine pap smear and boom, they caught her cancer at the absolute earliest, most treatable stage. It saved her from that grueling journey of chemo and radiation. Her life was saved by a simple procedure. That is the power of early detection. So here's the crucial point. We have this powerful 1-2 punch against this disease. The first punch is what we call primary prevention, the vaccine. It stops the virus before it can ever get started. The second punch is secondary prevention, the test. This one is all about catching any dangerous cell changes early before they become a life-threatening cancer. And on the vaccine front, there is some really fantastic news. India has actually developed its own homegrown HPV vaccine called Cervivac. How cool is that? The government has made it a national priority, and the plan is to vaccinate girls between the ages of 9 and 14 to protect them long before they're ever exposed to the virus. And then, for that second punch, screening, there are a few different tools. There's the traditional Pap test, which you've probably heard of, but the World Health Organization actually prefers the more sensitive HPV DNA test now. Here's the challenge though. The coverage in India is still dangerously low. We're talking less than 30% of women in the target age group have ever been screened. That's a huge gap we need to close. But what happens when someone falls through that gap? What happens when prevention fails? Well, for those women, the fight becomes a harsh reality, and it escalates through these incredibly painful stages. Let's really look at the human cost here. Chemo drips poison, radiation burns deep. Wow. That's a quote from Anjali, who survived stage 2B cancer. And I mean, that just says it all, doesn't it? This isn't some clean medical procedure. It is a physically and emotionally grueling war against your own body. And the data here is just a total gut punch. Look at these numbers. If you catch the cancer at stage 1, the 5-year survival rate is over 83%. But by stage 4, it plummets off a cliff to just 37%. And at the same time, the cost of treatment more than triples, pushing families into financial ruin. Delay is just devastatingly expensive in both lives and in money. This image shows you exactly why catching this early is so critical. You can see the journey from a normal, healthy cervix on the left to those early changes, and then all the way to advanced disease spreading into the tissue around it. That progression from left to right, that is what we are fighting to prevent.
Now here's where things get a little weird. You would think, logically, that as we get better at screening, the survival rates would just go up across the board, right? But a recent study from Brazil found something, well, something pretty counterintuitive.
So here's the puzzle. If our tools for catching cancer early are getting better and better, why would the survival rate for the cancers that do become invasive actually get worse over time? It doesn't really make sense at first glance.
Well, the answer is something called the screening paradox. Think of it like this. Imagine screening is a fishing net that's really good at catching the slow, lazy fish. As that net gets better and better, you catch all of them. So the only fish left to even get through the net are the super fast, super aggressive ones. It's not that the net is failing, it's that the type of fish left has changed. The same thing happens with cancer. As screening gets better, the only cancers that manage to become invasive are often the toughest, most aggressive ones to beat.
And this chart shows that paradox in action. Over 2 decades in this Brazilian state, the 5-year survival rate for the most common type of cervical cancer actually fell by over 10%. It's pretty likely that's because the cases they were seeing were just a tougher fight.
But look, that's a complex challenge, and it doesn't change the main story here. And the main story is overwhelmingly one of progress and hope. Seriously, what's coming over the horizon is incredible, and it's being fueled by brand new technology and some powerful national willpower.
The future of treatment and diagnosis is basically here. We're talking about things like immunotherapy, which can teach your own body's immune system to destroy cancer cells. We have precision radiotherapy that can zap tumors with incredible accuracy, sparing all the healthy tissue around them. And we have AI-powered tools that can spot danger signs way earlier than the human eye ever could. This isn't science fiction anymore. These are real tools changing outcomes for women right now.
And this is the commitment that ties it all together. India has set a huge national goal to eliminate cervical cancer as a public health problem. That is a bold, ambitious target, and it signals a whole new era in this fight.
So we end up right back where we started. This cancer is preventable. This fight is absolutely winnable. The science is there, the tools are there, and the national will is there. Everything is aligned. So the only question that's left is, what part will you play in ending this tragedy for good?
Neuropathy chaining me. Bedbound days, body broke, spirit low. But you're